quick, I want to do a little virtual around the room. If you can just say your name and the organization or school that you're with, and just name, how did you hear about the workshop today? I'm going to start with Jim because he was the very first person on today.
My name is Jim Brown. I teach at Sand Creek Middle School, grades 5, 6, and 8 in South Colony Schools in Albany, New York. And I heard about the workshop through Need. I think, I don't know if it was Becky Lamb or Mary Spruill, one of those out there sent me a notification about it. Was that it? Did I cover them all?
You covered it. You covered it. Becky, you're next.
Okay, I am Becky or Rebecca Lamb, and I am the program director at the Need Project. And I am very pleased and excited that we get to work with Bree and with NREL in helping bring hydro education to K-12 schools.
Thank you, Becky. And we're happy to work with you too. Oh, we're all mushy today. Emily, your turn.
Hi, everyone. My name is Emily Hawbaker. I also work at the Need Project with Becky. Usually my office is right beside each other when we're both there. I am the curriculum director for the Need Project, and I'm coming to this session this evening by way of our work on a partnership project with the National Renewable Energy Laboratory to refine and create some new and fun hydropower activities for teachers across the K-12 grade band, especially focusing on our high school and CTE groups.
Perfect. Thank you for being here, Emily. Erin, you're next. I'm going through my video screen, so when I get past that, I'm just going to start calling random names.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Erin Foraker, and I heard I'm with the Bureau of Reclamation. I work on the hydropower side there, and I heard about this through the Hydropower Foundation with Bree.
Thanks, Erin. And Elise.
Yeah, hi. My name is Elisa George, and I'm with NREL. Been here for about 10 years, and I get the opportunity to work on this water STEM project on behalf of the Department of Energy Water Power Technologies Office. So it's one of my favorite things to do. So, come.
Thanks, Elise. And Sharon.
Hi, I'm Sharon Mandare. I work at the University of Toronto, and we're trying to establish a hydropower-based master's course as part of the Faculty of Engineering. And I found out through a coworker who's part of the Ontario Water Power Association who's helping us to build the curriculum.
Perfect. Thank you for being here. That's great. We're going to want to keep in touch with you.
Thanks for having us.
Of course. Mary.
Hi, I'm Mary Spruill. I'm the Executive Director at the National Energy Education Development Project. And Bree and NREL and Jennifer, everybody invited us to this. So thanks for having us. I think it'll be a great discussion.
Thanks for being here. Jennifer.
All right. Hi, everyone. My name's Jennifer Daw. I'm a researcher at the National Renewable Energy Laboratory. It's nice to see everyone today. And I've been working on this portfolio with Bree and with Elise for the past several years, and a lot of my interests and research focus on the workforce issues and how we create a strong STEM pipeline of students who are really interested and excited about working in hydropower fields so that we can meet all of the job needs of hydropower in the US. So that's kind of my focus for this project, and look forward to talking to you guys more today.
Thanks, Jennifer. I thought it was Nina, but I think it's Nina. Is that right?
Yes, it's Nina. I'm Nina Corley, and I teach high school science on Galveston Island in Texas, and I heard about it through Need.
Very cool. I grew up in Houston, Nina, so I don't know. Galveston wasn't always like my favorite beach, but it was close by, so it feels like home when you talk about it. Very cool. I see Andy Peters on the line.
Now I'm not muted. I'm Andy Peters. I'm on the Foundation Advisory Board, and the company I work for builds systems that go in front of hydropower plants to keep fish out of them or keep debris out of the plants. And I'm looking forward to the meeting. Nice to meet y'all.
Thanks, Andy. Ruth.
Hi, I'm Ruth Baranowski. I'm a researcher here at NREL with a technical communications background, and I am helping the team build the STEM portals on OpenEI.
Perfect. Thanks, Ruth. Barry Scott.
Hi, I'm the state director in California for the NEED project and a former teacher and admin, and I love energy and I love the water. So like hydro, right?
Yeah. And your shirt says I love energy, is that right? Like
I need energy. I need energy.
You need energy. That makes sense. Oh my goodness. I love that. Okay, Miss Brennavan.
Good afternoon. This is Brenna Vaughn with the Northwest Hydroelectric Association. Thanks for hosting this. I learned about the event through BRE and the Hydropower Foundation, and our organization supports both the Foundation for Water and Energy Education, and a scholarship fund, the Julie Kyle Scholarship Fund. So we're really excited about today's workshop.
Thanks, Brenna. Jessica Coleman.
Hello, Jessica Coleman. I am an electrical engineer at Seattle City Lights and also a board member for the Hydropower Foundation. So this is, I love that this program is happening because we need people and we need to make hydro sexy for them to come and work for us. So.
That's right. I didn't pay her to say that or anything. Allison Colatello, please.
Sorry, had to find my unmute button. Allison Colatello from Pacific Northwest National Lab. I'm a researcher at PNNL, and in my spare time, I love to work with students and educators to teach them about the cool research that I do. Particularly, I lead a program here at PNNL to bring teachers to the lab to get hands-on experience doing work in lots of different areas, but my dream is to do a hydropower focused one. So that's sometime in the future.
Love it. Kyle Conroy.
Hi, good afternoon. Kyle Conroy. I am the Electric Power Training Center manager. We're in Golden or Lakewood, Colorado, right across the interstate from NREL. I've collaborated on a few different projects and just things with several people on the call. I recognize many names. Not sure if I was invited or it was sent my way to engage, but I have hosted local STEM events for the Denver area schools and really excited about doing that. And I've had some very positive experiences with that, as well as some not so positive ones, but we want to continue to be able to support the STEM effort everywhere we can. So thank you.
Perfect. Thanks, Kyle. Maddie.
Hi, my name is Maddie Kraus. I work with NREL and I work with Jennifer and Bree on these hydropower workshops.
Thanks, Maddie. Doug.
Hi, I'm Doug Keaton. I'm the apprenticeship and mentorship director for a contractor, and I'm here because of NEED and my long-standing relationship of getting to help make toys for students of all levels to play with. And, good to be here. Thank you.
Thanks, Doug. Linda.
Hi. Can you put my off? Get me off mute.
You were on mute. Now you're.
Now can you hear me?
Now you're on mute again. There you go.
Now you can hear me. Okay.
Now we can hear you.
Okay, I'm Linda Church-Tiachi, the Executive Director of the Hydropower Foundation. Been working with Bree, although Bree's done the bulk of the work on this, as I've worked on some other projects for the foundation. We obviously have a long history in support of STEM education and helping to prepare the next generation workforce for the hydropower industry. Prior to coming to the foundation, I've been with them 2 years just about now. I worked for 30 years as the executive director of the National Hydropower Association. And obviously, as part of the work there, we were very interested in the work the foundation was doing on education in general and preparing a workforce that would be able to meet the needs of the industry in the future. And we also have been very active over the years with NEED, which we felt was a very important organization in helping prepare students and the grades in terms of lower grades in terms of education, which we felt was sorely needed. One of the things there while I was at NHA we recognized was that students aren't exposed to hydropower early. They generally don't receive a very good education in terms of hydro. I can remember when my daughter came home from school one day when she was very young, and she said, "Mommy, I don't really like what you do for work." And I said, "Why?" And she says, "Well, you kill beavers." And I'm thinking to myself, where on earth did that come from? Her teacher had told her that. So I marched myself down at school and had quite a discussion with her teacher after that. But there's an incredible need for education of all sorts in terms of hydropower, its benefits, its value, and most importantly, its opportunities in terms of building an incredible career. So I look forward to the conversation today, and I will go on mute because I have two puppies who are probably going to start barking soon because they're hungry.
Thanks, Linda. Jonathan.
Hi, I cleared this with my director. I'm going to defer to my director, Parker Mullins, first, because he'll do a much better job introducing our organization than I will.
Okay, Parker.
Okay, I didn't know that was the deferral. My name is Parker Mullins, and I'm the program director for CE, which is the Bonneville Environmental Foundation's career-connected clean energy education program. So we work primarily through teacher professional development and leadership development. And to keep it quick, one of the things that we're most excited about right now is working with our Clean Energy Fellows program. We have a group of fellows, or we'll be recruiting a group of fellows that will be working on a K-12 storyline and set of curriculum around hydropower and hydropower career pathways. So looking forward to that and learning from this discussion.
Very cool, Parker. Marla.
Hi there, it's Marla Barnes. I'm with the National Hydropower Association. We, as most of you know, are the national trade association for the hydropower, water power industry. We represent all sectors of the water power industry, conventional hydro, pump storage, and marine energy. We have about 250 members, ranging from pretty much all the asset owners in North America. I was so glad to hear the Ontario folks on Ontario Power Generation as a member of NHA. And then we do a variety of things, not only for our members, but for the industry at large. We host a couple of big national events every year. We just launched a new media platform called Powerhouse. So we're kind of the conduit, and we work a lot with the foundation to provide forums for people to reach the industry and introduce all these students to the industry and all the things that we do. I'm very excited to be here. I love education and think it's a great industry, and we have so much opportunity to get the next generation workforce into it.
Thanks, Marla. Mamadou? Not sure if I said your name right.
Yes. Hi, my name is Mamdou. I'm a sophomore in New York City College in technology in New York City. I'm a student, so I love the program from Bree. I received an email from her. So thank you for inviting me.
Thank you for being here. It's great. Michael.
Yeah, good afternoon, everyone. Sharon Mendare has invited me to this through the program at University of Toronto, where I'm on the industry advisory panel. As I'm on the advisory panel for Conestoga College, which also has a renewable technician program here in Canada. My day job is at Stantec Engineering Consultancy, and I'm responsible and the principal for hydropower and dams here in Canada.
Perfect. Paul.
Oh, hi, folks. My name's Paul Norris. I'm president of the Ontario Water Power Association. So we are the industry association representing the hydropower industry in the province of Ontario, Canada. We have 140 members, thereabouts. So our organization was invited by Bree, and as Michael and Sharon have pointed out, we're working actively with the University of Toronto on developing a master's program for hydropower in the province of Ontario. We've also worked previously with Queen's University in Kingston, Ontario on the Aboriginal Access to Engineering program to provide them with a hydro focus. They encourage Indigenous youth to get involved from kindergarten to grade 12, and we've developed a curriculum for grade 3 in Ontario for students who are required to take a renewable energy course as part of their, I guess, courses, grade 3, part of their science. I'm really here because I get a chance to work with Linda and Marla again, so.
Whatever we got to do to get you here, it's fine. Steve Winke.
Yeah, so my name is Steve Winke. I work for an investor-owned utility, Vista, up in Spokane, Washington, and I'm also president of the Hydropower Foundation. So I'm here largely because Bree used her virtual gun and pointed it at my head and made me do this, but that's not really true. I have a strong passion around this whole effort of the education thing. I've got my share of stories I can share that just, you know, from my perspective, just your jaw drops when you hear why people aren't interested or don't get the right experiences and exposures to the hydropower industry. So I'm really excited about the efforts and stuff that we're putting together here. So thank you.
Thanks. Wesley Williams. And we're almost done with our introductions, but this is a super important part of this since we're all talking to each other today to have an idea of everybody's backgrounds. Wesley.
Yep, so I'm Wesley Williams. I'm an associate professor at University of North Carolina at Charlotte. I've had a research interest in small hydro and marine energy and interest in placing students in renewable energy jobs.
Perfect, Wesley, thanks. And let's see, Paula Miller.
Hi, everybody. My name's Paula Miller and I teach at Abraham Lincoln High School in Philadelphia. I'm working with another teacher to develop a curriculum on the socio-scientific issue dealing with hydropower. And I was invited here by NEED. We love NEED. And I'm very excited to be here and thank you.
We're happy to have you. And Andrew.
Hello, good afternoon. My name is Andrew Wodoslawski. I work for an engineering consulting company called Black & Veatch, mostly active in the United States, but perhaps slightly active in Toronto as well. I am a career hydropower professional mechanical engineer, and I'll be speaking a little bit later today regarding industry expectations, what it takes to get a job in a company that I work for. And Bree, thank you for the invitation.
Thanks for being here, Andrew. I think that's it for now. We have a couple stragglers and we'll make them sit in the hot seat when they get here. But for now, we'll just get on with the show. Our next step right now, we're going to give you guys kind of a background on our project and why DOE thinks it's important, since they are responsible for funding this project. So next up is Allison Johnson to talk to us about that. And I will be pulling up your slides in just a second.
Perfect, thanks. So there are a lot of familiar names and faces as well here, so thank you all for joining. And really, yeah, as Bree said, what I want to share with you all today is sort of DOE's perspective on the importance of the future hydro workforce. And knowing we have quite a few hydro experts here, but I'm also assuming a few of you might be a little less familiar. But regardless of your, familiarity with hydro, you might be wondering why DOE finds it so important at this moment to focus on the need to inspire the next generation of the hydro workforce. And the reason for this is we see the industry facing some workforce challenges at a time when hydro has really never been as important to the reliability of our power system. So just to start us off with an example, I think Aaron and some other people out west, you probably know and have seen this exact graph before. But basically, just an example to drive this point home, in late August, amid wildfires all over the West, California had a heat emergency with temperatures far above 100 degrees across much of the state. And Californians were, understandably needing to crank their AC, but the state couldn't meet that demand and was forced to shut off power for nearly 2 million residents. And when the lights did finally come back on, it was with the help of hydro. So the Bureau of Reclamation, which operates much of the federal hydro fleet out west, tapped a number of their facilities, increased generation flows, adjusted pump storage operations, and sent massive amounts of power to California. And I think a lot of you already know, but I'll just say it anyways. Why would hydro be tapped to come to the rescue as opposed to maybe some other similarly reliable power sources? And the answer is really because other plants like coal and gas do need lead time to get their generators spinning. But with hydro, it's much more simple. You really just need to open the gates and let the water flow. And there's almost no lead time needed. It's really instant power generation. And as I'm sure many of you know, in the reverse scenario, when there's more power being generated or supplied to the grid than there is demand, that's when pump storage really shines. On very sunny or windy days, pump storage is actually helping to take that excess power off the grid and store it until it is needed. So Bree, if you could go to the next slide. And this example of what happened in California is not a unique event, at least in terms of, what hydro was able to do. Hydro contributes to the reliability of our power system daily. And we at DOE don't expect that to change. If anything, we're seeing hydro's role in our power system continuously evolving, and largely due to the need to balance more solar and wind. And that's because hydro is a baseload resource. As I said, it's there when you need it, and it can also be dispatched instantly. It can also provide a number of other flexibility services. And despite a lot of important energy storage research taking place, pump storage still accounts for almost all of our grid storage in the US. And it really is our only option currently for long duration storage. So what I'm saying is hydro and pump storage aren't the only tools available to ensure grid reliability and flexibility, but we definitely see them as the only tools that are currently both cost competitive and renewable. And so that's really important, for anyone that is looking to decarbonize our power sector. Hydro really needs to be kind of the keystone, I would argue, of a future renewable grid. So next slide. And yeah, I've emphasized really the importance of hydro for the health of our power system, but I'd be remiss if I didn't remind us all that many hydro facilities contribute to our lives in ways unrelated to power. Most hydro projects in the US, something like 90%, also provide non-energy benefits, such as navigation, flood control, water supply. And these are services that the surrounding communities do really rely on. Next slide. So hydro and pump storage, we at DOE would argue, have always been important resources, but they are exceedingly important to our power system as a whole. And so we not only need a workforce to continue stewarding these resources, but also to help adapt them for the future. To ensure hydro remains flexible and can continue to serve our grid, especially as more solar and wind come online, but also to meet environmental regulations and even exceed them in the future, and really think about new technologies that can help us to sustainably harness this resource. And next slide, please. So yeah, I've been a little bit of a cheerleader for hydro today, and if anyone needed convincing of the value of hydro, I hope that this served as a little bit of a baseline. But this is also why it's so critical that we have a strong workforce to continue to operate and innovate in hydro. And hydro does have a bit of a workforce challenge. I might be a little dramatic here on the slide, but I could argue that we do have a recipe for disaster here. Hydro professionals in many occupations are older than the average overall US workforce. According to a study NREL led, over a quarter of US hydro workers could retire within the next decade. So this means that even if we don't see growth in the sector in overall number of jobs, we can expect a significant increase in demand for skilled workers just based on retirements. Employers are already having challenges hiring. NREL's workforce assessment found just that. And the situation is definitely exacerbated by the fact that few hydro-focused degree programs currently exist. And that is, as we've seen through other assessment, partially because the demand for those courses don't exist. Some students today, interested in energy are often drawn to what they see as newer, more cutting edge technologies, and they may not always see hydro as an exciting field. But the truth is, as I've said, there are significant opportunities for innovation in hydro, whether that's new technologies to improve environmental sustainability or adding new generation capabilities to the nation's many non-powered dams. But we're going to need new talent and diverse talent to support this kind of innovation and really help hydro continue to serve our power and non-power needs. So really, whether a student enters the hydro workforce or the power sector more broadly, really any student interested in energy stands to benefit by understanding how hydro fits into our current power system and an increasingly renewable power system. So again, thank you all so much for being here today and for showing interest in hydro and the future of the clean energy workforce.
Okay, Bree, you're on mute. I think you were going to probably tell me that I'm up.
Sorry, yes, I'm on mute. Steve, where's your mug that says you're on mute? Yes, Elise is up with NREL. She's the Water Power Technologies Office Group Manager.
Thank you. All right, I'm going to just take a few minutes to tell you a little bit about this water power STEM project that we've had the opportunity to work on for the last couple of years. As Allison shared with you, the importance of workforce development is particularly relevant with hydropower and the amount of people retiring and the opportunities opening up in the new world of hydropower. So there are changes to the U.S. energy system that are creating new jobs, and jobs are opening up due to demographic shifts such as retirement. As interest in renewable energy goes, water power will play a robust and growing role. Our water STEM project includes water power, hydropower, and as well as marine energy. And those two areas are distinctly different. However, we are leveraging our capabilities and our partner system, which I'll share with you in the next couple of slides, to be able to tackle the challenges around growing a future hydropower and marine energy workforce to spur innovation and support industry needs. You can go to the next slide. So this project, it has been evolving over the past few years, and it will continue to evolve. We started out really trying to get the fundamental analysis out there, really understand what it is we need to do to help fill in those gaps. You'll hear a lot about that during the presentations today from my colleagues. We perform jobs and economic modeling analysis with our JEDI tool, workforce development of a hydropower workforce report. We've worked with professionals, as you'll see are on the call today, to develop educational materials and displays. Ruth will tell you more about the portal that we've been pulling together to showcase all of the information and analysis and products that we've been pulling together. And we're hosting this workforce dialogue series, of which this is a part, to really calibrate our efforts to understand what it is that is truly needed, how we can best get that information out there, most importantly into the hands of the people that can use it, and make it as effective and impactful as possible. We've had a successful year hosting, and Ariel Cardinal on the call is running this, the Marine Energy Collegiate Competition. We've had lots of successes with collegiate competitions in the past, and are hoping to develop a hydropower collegiate competition in the future in order to really get those college level students really engaged in hands-on activities. There's a lot more that we are talking about doing over the years, and it's calls like this that really help to fuel those discussions and help us understand what's really needed and how can the Department of Energy's effort really help fill in those gaps. So we started out really working very closely, NREL, with the Hydropower Foundation in partnership with the Department of Energy Water Power Technologies Office to really understand what the needs are, to understand what we as our organizations are capable of doing and where we need to bring in those external experts. And of course, first organization that came to mind, many are listed here, is the NEED Project, KidWind. We're first on our minds to help develop, further develop the curricula to get out into their very rich network of teachers and students in order to really get the information in the hands of the people that could use it and make the most impact. We've developed a really strong partnership with Mystic Aquarium, who's developed an exhibit at their location, but also helping us with lots of storylines and ways to get really rich stories out there to entice those who may not know really the ins and outs and the opportunities around marine energy and hydropower. Parker, I hope it's okay. We just put your logo on there now. The Bonneville Environmental Foundation. We've started some really great discussions with them to talk about what it could look like to have a larger network of regional locations to help really ensure a national reach with a local messaging and a local presence, particularly. Bonneville has very strong ties in the tribal community, and we've been talking about how we can better have more equity-focused activities as well. National Ocean Sciences Bowl has been a great partner on the marine energy side of our efforts, and IKM, a company out of the UK, has been developing some beautiful graphical representations of different hydropower technologies and marine energy technologies to really be able to make these technologies, but also the subsequent career opportunities available to all ages and all levels. So that's been a work in progress that we'll be making sure is on the portal as soon as that's ready to be deployed. And a little about NREL. We are a national lab that's focused completely on renewable energy and energy efficiency. And that is really part and parcel to our whole reason for existence. And we do a lot in NREL's in hydropower to help understand the needs of the rapidly evolving grid and optimizing hydro operations and planning. We really are taking to heart the beauty of hydropower as an enabler of a 100% renewable grid. And so it's very exciting to be able to encapsulate those benefits and be able to make it understandable to all grades and ages, and teachers that can help pass that on as well. And so Bree, I'm going to pass this over to you so you can talk about Hydro Foundation.
Yes, so Hydropower Foundation, we've been furthering the future of hydropower since 1994. We are a 501c3 nonprofit, and so we are small but mighty and really focused on spending time with pursuing education, research, and workforce development. So this partnership with NREL has been perfect and right alongside our mission over at the foundation. So really excited. It is one of my favorite things to work on. I think Elise said that earlier. It really has begun to grow in a way that is just really exciting. So feels like we're getting somewhere now. Moving right along, I would like to introduce to you Jennifer Daw. She is the senior researcher and group manager at NREL and my colleague. Jennifer.
Hello. Hi, everyone. All right. So I'm going to give you a quick recap of some of the work we've been doing to date on the analysis side of things, just to set the stage a little bit for what we've done and our understanding of some of these challenges when it comes to the academic pipeline. It was, I think, almost 3 years ago now, we assessed U.S. post-secondary schools, so universities and community colleges, to get a better understanding of the types of educational programs and curricula around hydropower. And we also looked at marine energy. For today, I'm just focusing on the hydropower findings. And the intent was trying to understand where these programs exist, what are they teaching, can students get a degree in hydropower, or is it just part of a course? Is it being taught at all? Also trying to understand the interest of students and any other challenges that educators may be facing in that space. And so this is a quick recap of our findings from that effort where we did this, what we called a curricula assessment. Of the responding schools, the majority did not offer degree programs. However, it was offered as a specialization at a few of the schools. Very few schools also had dedicated hydropower courses, and many had no courses at all. If it is offered, oftentimes it's a topic within other energy courses. Some schools are including hydro as like with practical applications, so online learning, potentially touring hydropower facilities, partnering with power utilities as well. And there was interest in growing the hydro programs, although some of the professors we spoke with said that there's a challenge with lack of funding to do so. And students may not have a lot of awareness or interest in hydro itself. So they weren't sure if there was that demand, but they did feel like there was growing demand from potential employers to have students with hydropower education. So as a result of this, why don't we move on to the next slide? We thought, okay, this would be really interesting if we approach students now and got a better understanding of what they think about the hydropower industry. So this is something we worked on last year. Big picture, and I have tons of data on this, so if you're more interested, I could talk to you later about it, but students are interested in hydro. We asked them to rank their interest in different energy generation technologies, and solar and wind were number 1 and 2. Hydro was actually number 3, which I thought was a pleasant surprise, but it seemed like there were some knowledge gaps for these students. If they had learned about hydro, it was in high school or college level, if they've learned about it at all. Many of the students reported self-teaching, going online, Googling, seeing what they could find. So not clear how reputable the resources are that they were getting access to. So that's one thing to keep in mind. Many also said that they didn't really know where to get more information. And so I think that that is a challenge both for students and potentially for educators too, that want to stay on top of the latest technologies and trends that are taking place in the hydropower industry. Some of the perceptions we heard about hydro, many students were expressing that they felt like it was an old industry, which obviously there's truth to that. But there's this idea that it's a solved problem. I don't think they understood that there was innovation, there were new technological developments. A lot of comments, if they were negative comments about hydro, focused on environmental concerns and not really having an understanding of the mitigation efforts that were in place. Additionally, there wasn't much understanding of the potential for industry growth, for the way, like the role that hydropower plays for the grid, like Allison described, and what hydropower means to this idea of decarbonization, where I think many students might assume, and actually general public as well, might assume that, oh, we can decarbonize the grid 100% on wind and solar, but not understand that, in fact, that's not a viable option, and you need some other technologies for energy storage, for ramping purposes, for grid balancing, etc. So that came out in the survey. And in general, students had some awareness of the types of jobs that might exist in the hydropower field, but their understanding was very limited to engineering or maybe operation and maintenance jobs. So students that were working in other disciplines or pursuing different degrees didn't necessarily see a home for themselves in hydropower. And I think that's another area where we could definitely do more outreach and get more educational resources out there. And so to follow on this thread, currently we're conducting an industry survey. For those of you on the line from the hydropower industry, if you haven't seen it yet, we would love to get your response on it. But this is kind of the story continues into the next chapter, where we are trying to better understand hiring challenges, how ready are the students for the jobs that they're actually getting in the hydropower field, with an ultimate goal of connecting this back to how do we build a stronger education pipeline? How do we get the right resources to educators that would help to inspire the next generation of students? Great. And so I think, I can't remember now, was Ruth on the line? I'm sorry, I was just thinking Ruth was going to jump in on this slide. If not, I will. Sorry.
That's okay. I had you down for it, but Ruth, you can chat about it too if you want.
It's fine. I didn't want to put her on the spot. Sorry, we did another presentation this week, very similar to this. So at one point I had to hand it over to Ruth. So apologies for the awkward moment. So an extension of this effort is our STEM for Hydropower portal. I'm hoping that many of you have taken a look at this. It's a platform that lives on the OpenEI wiki, and the focus here is information sharing, both for educators and for students, providing educational materials, resources, and other tools that can be used to inspire the next generation of hydropower workers. So this is the landing page for the portal itself. And if you want to go to the next slide, this is a high-level snapshot of the different topical areas that we focus on in the portal. Workforce data and analysis, and so this speaks a lot to what we've been up to on the analysis side of things, trying to understand the workforce issues. A resources section that provides a lot of good detail on curricula and educational materials. Information on networking and career building. And so this will be an area where educators and students can get a better understanding of the types of jobs out there and where they might pursue them. Prizes and competitions. I can't remember if we've mentioned already, but we're looking at the potential to develop a hydropower competition. And so this area will speak more to the types of innovative topics that are emerging around collegiate competitions, but also some of the prizes that DOE runs that are focused on water technologies. We have a great section here on site tours, and many of these are virtual. So for those educators here that are really trying to get students excited in a remote environment, you may be able to share some of these with your students in your classroom and have them be, okay, they can't take a tour in person, but they can take a look on this site and get a handle of what's going on. And finally, information on some of the latest research that's taking place around hydropower. And Ruth, I see your head. Is there anything else you want to add there?
Nope, I think you did a great job summarizing all of that. Thanks.
Okay, sorry about that. Anyway, and so here is the page that goes into a deep dive on the resources, including the types of careers that students might pursue in hydropower. And this is a section that we're going to continue to build out in the next year or so. We'll be developing career competency maps to better assist students in their understanding of what type of degree might they use to get into a certain type of job in hydropower. So that will be forthcoming. The educator resources section we'll be spending a little more time on today, and this is where a lot of the curricula that we've identified, which is publicly available, free, it's just linked to on the portal, and this is something that you can also take a look at, and also information on the locations where hydropower programs exist. And just a slightly deeper dive once again, so the career pathways here, there's some really great resources that I think if I were a student might get me a little more excited about hydropower. We have professional profiles that give you a sense of like the day in the life of someone who works in the hydropower industry. We have them developed for marine energy right now, and we are working on hydropower profiles. So if you're someone who would love to be interviewed, for example, and tell us about the cool work that you do and the future of hydropower, please let Bree or I know. Also, case studies showing novel examples of technologies and other innovative solutions taking place in the hydropower industry. And then the career skills and competency mapping, which I mentioned, that's coming in the future, but it's an area that we're, again, hoping to better link students in academia to the industry and help provide the level of information needed. And this is just a picture of what the educator resources look like. You can search by education level, resource type, subject area, and topic. While our emphasis has been kind of high school and up, we do have a lot of resources on here for K through 8 as well. In our research, we would be remiss if we did not include them. There are plenty out there. So if you haven't taken a look here, definitely encourage that you do so. I think there's some really great materials.
Okay, thanks, Jennifer. I appreciate it. And okay, so we're going to run kind of quickly through this. I'm going to come back to the dialogue workshop series because we're actually going to circle back towards the end to talk about future workshops that we have coming up. But essentially, I kind of mentioned earlier just the goals for this dialogue. We really want to know what would help you. We are only as good as what the information that we get from you. So we're not sitting in the classroom every day, so we need to know what materials you need in order to be successful. The information that we've heard, like Jennifer mentioned, through the curricula assessment is, teachers are not going to teach on something they're not super confident about. And so if we can provide the resources for you to do that, then that's what we want to do. So please let us know if there's any information missing as you peruse the portal. As we go through the rest of the workshop today, you're going to learn about the curricula that has been created, and we want to make sure that that's capturing everything you feel like it should capture. So don't be afraid to ask questions as we go along. And we are going to move right into, let's see. We have Andrew next, and Andrew is going to talk to us about the industry perspective and what they really need to see from students that are graduating out of high school and coming into the workforce. Andrew?
Well, thank you, Bree. Yes, indeed. I will be talking today about what are the expectations from a positive standpoint, and also some of the gaps that in preparation for the workplace that I've been noting in the last couple of years. But first, I want to say that opinions are my own, not that of my employer. And I'd like to also give a bit of context as to what sort of workplaces I'm talking about. I earned my engineering degree at the University of Toronto. Between the third and fourth year, there was something called a professional experience year that for 16 months put me into a co-op position. And I was lucky enough to get a position with GE Hydro in Peterborough, Ontario. And that's how I started my hydro career. In terms of specialization in school, I was in the mechanical discipline. But underneath the mechanical discipline, there were something called streams, which are essentially subspecializations, if you will. And I took energy and machine design. So I'm a mechanical engineer with a machine design and energy subspecialization, if you will. And that was the right combination for hydropower, at least at the time. When I was going to school, there was no separate discipline or a high-level degree that was called hydropower. It was all in the subspecialization or maybe sub-subspecialization layers. From the days at Andritz Hydro onwards, I've followed a rule of 3 for hiring. When I'm looking at resumes and when I'm speaking to potential either summer job students or well, permanent full-time interns or permanent full-time individuals, we look at first attitude. So that's a positive attitude, willingness to work with others, this sort of thing. Then comes a willingness to learn. You know, is this person a sponge taking up everything that's being told to them and everything that they see? And only number 3 is knowledge. So that is a philosophy that I've been following. That's the order and priority that was passed to me by my mentor, Wayne Martin, principal engineer at GE. And that's the philosophy I follow. So it's attitude, then comes willingness to learn, then comes knowledge. I will never expect a kid coming into my workplace to know immediately how to do a rotor dynamics calculation for a vertical machine. It's not a realistic expectation, so we don't have that expectation. So let's talk a little bit about attitude. What are the gaps in attitude that we and some of my colleagues as well have encountered that are useful to speak to students about? First, it's expecting too much too early. We live in a society of a short-term gain or instant gratification, and plenty of stories of rag to riches right out of school, or heck, don't even finish school, go right and make hundreds of thousands of dollars. We hear that all the time because those are the stories that are loudest. However, the reality is that in the first couple of years, while an individual is working towards their license, their professional engineer or PEng or PE license, they are going to be doing grunt work. They are expected to learn a lot, and it's hard work, and it takes a little bit of patience to get through those couple of years before individuals are given a large amount of responsibility. So preparing students that for those first couple of tough years, and I'm not saying carrying coffee, that we never make people do that, but realistic expectations for the first couple of years. Next, I would say, I would always encourage students to ask questions, think critically. I think that all teachers must do this already, but I'll emphasize it again. Ask questions, please, please, please. Mentors are often very busy, but are more than happy to answer anything a student might have. Okay, let's move on to gaps in knowledge and program. So something that worked really well for me coming out of school, it was an introduction to the engineering process and introduction to engineering as a profession. There are 2 different courses, don't quote me on the names, but essentially I had one course that was how to make a drawing, how to read a drawing, and another course on what is project management, what is the jargon, what does an engineering project look like? What is a procedure? What is a specification? What is a technical specification? Having introductory courses that are high level, that go quickly through all this jargon, is immensely helpful to people that are just coming into the industry. So if you are a professor, and I think we definitely have instructors and those that are creating curricula, please don't forget about those introduction to the profession type courses. And okay, the next half of the academic side is co-op. I saw the difference between my colleagues that went to co-op and those that didn't go to co-op, and the kind of sanity checks that those that did go to co-op can do are enormously valuable. There's a major divide between those that did and did not attend a cooperative education, whether it's the Waterloo model where it's 4 months on, 4 months off, or I'll just call it the U of T model where it's 16 months, one big block between years. There's another style out there. Definitely encourage the students in your life to take on a co-op program, to go to a university or college that has a cooperative education model. If that doesn't exist or it's not practical for one reason or another, let's talk summer programs. And Bree, I'm going to take control of the image here, if you don't mind. I'm going to just show a little bit. Okay, I'm going to be sharing my screen. And hopefully you see the photo of two individuals up here. Can everybody see that? Give some thumbs up if. Okay, great. So here are two students that I took on this past summer for a virtual internship. And what we did with them was every day for 2 weeks that they were with me in the hydropower specific portion, I had these two individuals do calculations on MathCAD, in Excel, interpret drawings, create 3D models. I made them work as if they were doing a real project. And at the end of it, I had them choose to either create a turbine, a hydraulic turbine, or a generator, or both. So this student here on the left, he chose to do both. He did a what's called a Pelton wheel with lots of little buckets that ran on faucet power. And here you see the generator, which is an aluminum can with magnets around it and copper coil wrapped around. And here on the right, this individual decided to focus on the generator itself. And you can see that there's a lot of these copper coils around a section that rotates, and here's a stationary part as well. And these individuals not just did the physical model, the demonstrative model, but I had them show the theoretical development as well. So they came out of this program with a full scope: design, construction, and testing. Full scope project. And the happy story, the one on the right made it to Columbia University, which was his top choice. And we think that his internship with Black & Veatch had something to do with it, or at least I like to think so. So I'd like to, so I'll close that up. I'll close that and I'll summarize here. Again, when I'm looking for a prospect to work with us, either for a summer or for an internship or permanent full-time, I'm looking for attitude, willingness to learn, and in third place, real knowledge. What differentiates good students from actually great prospects, it's the great prospects will have a good, relevant co-op or summer experience. That's hopefully full cycle: design, construct, test, the whole cycle. I encourage everyone that has students in their lives to pursue building their technical resume well in advance of university. Start, K to 12. There's no reason why we can't start building our resumes, building our interest in those early days. And finally, for those that of positions of authority in the academic world, please encourage co-op programs to exist and flourish and to make those industry connections early. Because I can guarantee I got my first permanent full-time position because of my co-op, and these individuals that you saw here may very well get an offer if they choose to come back to me. And with that, thank you for your attention. Bree, back to you.
Thank you, Andrew. Appreciate it. Next up is Emily. She is the curriculum director for NEED. Former 8th grade science teacher, Emily works with a team to create and refine energy curricula for students and teachers and facilitate workshops, programming, and student events. So, Emily, it's all yours.
Awesome. So the next segment is going to be myself, and then you're going to hear from my partner in crime, Doug, and we're going to talk to you about, I'm going to show you, Jennifer and Andrew both kind of were talking about this concept of preparing the workforce, and one of the things that Jennifer was showcasing to you all was the portal. And so I want to talk to you about some of the ways, she kind of already highlighted a good number of things on the portal that might be handy, but I'm presenting here the portal itself, and I know that there are a number of educators on the session this evening, so I wanted to give you all some insight on how we might use it or help teachers to use it across grade bands and even into the college area. And so this is the landing page for the whole portal. And so when you get here, obviously, one of the key things, I know there are a number of K-12 teachers on the call. The first place that I would head to for students, you know, in the case of many of the students on this study, a lot of kids have no knowledge of hydropower unless they've learned about it themselves. So the Hydropower Basics page has been a huge help for us as we're kind of directing teachers to content, especially because there's a really awesome, kids love video content, obviously. And so great short video by the Department of Energy here, basics of hydropower. Also, showcasing with imagery and description, you know, things about hydropower. So types of plants, turbines, research and development. That one gets a little heavier in the content knowledge and the vocabulary. But then as we scroll the whole way through here, this glossary of hydropower terms is really handy for students, especially if they're watching a video or Googling things on their own and hearing terms that they, even on the news, might be hearing terms that they're not quite sure of. So this is one tool that is really handy. And then as you're on the portal, on the top here is this navigation bar. I'm going to head right to the STEM page, which Jen had showcased a little bit earlier. And I'm going to head to resources because this, and it's a little slow, apologies. This is sort of one of the awesome places where they've collected a ton of resources that are handy for teachers. You know, again, just regardless of your environment. And so obviously the discussion is to continue to add to this, but throughout this listing, and again, you can search by keyword, you can filter by your grade level that you're going to be working with or the type of environment that you're going to be working with. But this is a pretty great little starting list for those of you building curriculum, looking for curriculum, and those of you who are aware of curriculum. Ruth is your gal to get a few things on here. For example, one of the things that's on here that is really great for a quick discussion is, I'm scrolling quickly. Obviously, you all can kind of search through here, but we're going to discuss some of this a little bit later. But how electricity moves from nature to your home. Some of the things on here are simple graphics. And as you can see, it gives you a little more information as you click to the page, and then it directs you to the resource itself. So some of these are really great graphics that you can download and utilize and input into your classroom discussion. And then some of them are a little more robust as I scale back here. So a great example, we have our NEED educational curriculum. So I'm going to scroll to NEED. Here we go. All of the NEED curriculum, the guides, the kits, it connects you to our hydropower curriculum, and you can download the physical books. And so any of the other resources and entities on here, you can download the activities in PDF format. And there's a huge number of resources on here that can be handy to teach everything from, fish-friendly engineering. I think we have somebody on the call this evening who works with that, something simple, looking at and labeling the parts of a hydropower facility, a conventional dam, those kinds of things. So this page is really handy, and as mentioned, there's hands-on activities, there's engineering design activities, and then there's simple graphics and fill-in-the-blank type activities that can be handy for you. So quick scroll the whole way back up here again, and real briefly, the last little piece here that I wanted to share with you all, especially as we're thinking about preparing that workforce, is this career pathways page. And one of the key things that I think is really awesome is having taught middle schoolers, they need to see it firsthand. And so these are great resources, video clips because of the time that we're on and the lagginess of my internet, I'm not going to necessarily show a whole video here, but you can see this is going to talk you through, for example, a hydropower biologist. a day, his life, and what he would do working for the Snohomish County Public Utility District. And what's cool is this is a nice collection of a variety of skilled trade workers, everything to really robust educational background folks as well. So it kind of runs the gamut of what your kids could take a look at. And then as you scroll, there's also written portfolios of what kinds of requirements and day-to-day activities each of these folks might incorporate into their day-to-day. So they can look at a written description of some of these careers as well. And then finally, for those of you who don't live in an area where you can just take your kids to go see the dam, the last little piece here is on this educator resources tab here. I'll go back to the STEM page real quick. The last little piece that I think is really handy, especially as we're considering this virtual realm that we're in, is the Water Power Site Tours tab. And you can actually, it's an interactive map. You can look at locations, and again, we will likely be adding to this, but as this loads up here, you can look at locations where different types of hydropower facilities exist, and who to contact to get a tour, as this is loading up here. And then also on the virtual tours tab, you can actually view video of either YouTube or various other methodologies to take an actual tour on video of each of these sites. So lots of helpful things for the classroom here. Lots of ways that you can incorporate the portal into your classroom and make it meaningful. Any questions about that?
Thank you, Emily. I appreciate it. We'll have a little bit of time towards the end, hopefully, for some questions. So if you think of anything for Emily, hang on to them, and we'll talk about them towards the end. Next up is Doug. Doug's going to talk to us. He's been affiliated with NEED as a teacher, presenter, advisor, and toy maker for 12 years. And he is a master electrician by trade and holds a master's in career and technical education. When he finishes his dissertation edits, he will have a PhD in sustainable energy education and natural resource management. As he says, he geeks out on all things energy and sustainability, and he just purchased 10 acres to live off grid on and build a homestead, which I'm super jealous of. For fun, he rides his Harley Davidson Road King, forges knives, carves tobacco pipes, and hangs out with his 5 grandchildren. So welcome, Doug.
Thanks, everyone. I really appreciate everybody that's on this call in this meeting. As Bree's getting ready to pull up some slides, I don't need to say any more about me. She pretty well covered that. But at NEED, we have a curriculum that covers all aspects of energy education. And I just want to give you an overview of the hydropower curriculum. In case you weren't familiar with NEED, typically we would be doing in-person seminars and trainings, as we have done since 1980 when NEED was first established and first came about as a result of the first energy crisis. But we've grown now to have programs in all 50 states as well as countries internationally. Our goal is to develop students and make sure that they become educated thinkers. We want them to be equipped to make intelligent decisions about energy use in their adult life. I think too many times we present them with some information and then we say, oh, well, you're probably not going to need this. As a career and technical education teacher, that seemed to be a lot of the time when students were disconnected from the resources and disconnected from the topic. But we've done hundreds of workshops across the country, reach about 500,000 kids a year. And since the pandemic, we've had to do this virtually. And Mary and the team have done a great job. bringing this forward. If you'll go to the next slide. Again, something there that we just talked about, over 100 workshops, 565 US cities. Next slide, please. NEED has an 8-step approach to energy proficiency, and this is an overview of those 8 steps. We consider it a complete energy unit, and we start with energy forms in the science of energy, showing kids how energy changes from one form to another. From there, we teach them about the sources in our daily lives. We have curriculum units that focus on oil, natural gas, coal, nuclear, solar, and wind, and probably my favorite is the hydropower. We move them through electricity and magnetism and transportation to round out a foundation of how we use energy. And these first 4 steps lay that groundwork for students to understand how energy is used every day. Steps 5 through 8 on this slide, they show students how we can do a better job of conserving those resources that are described in steps 1 and 4. The efficiency and conservation piece, that's what we really like to talk about, or I really like to talk about when using the resources wisely. With a background in the education that I have in natural resource management, I really like to hit this home to make sure that they understand what their future can be. Through synthesis and reinforcement, we pull language arts, creative arts, math, social science skills to help support all of this and to bring all of this together and synthesize it. Finally, we end with an evaluation and leadership and outreach. This model's been in place almost 40 years, and students every year do a student-led recognition program where schools present energy-related projects at the national conference. And I'm happy to say that several years when I was a vocational school teacher at the high school level, students in my program were able to participate in that national conference. Next slide, please. So the hydropower curriculum overview, there's 4 grade bands that we have developed. And that curriculum suite is where we want to shift our focus this afternoon. We have these curriculum units, and because of the topics that are covered each are similar, we built this overlap and reinforcement as they grow through. So if a student started in elementary education and was getting hydropower, then when they move to middle school or high school, they will see this constant overlap and reinforcement of where we're building that knowledge base. We just finished revising and updating the secondary curriculum level, exploring hydroelectricity, and we developed a new CTE classroom focused unit entitled Your Future in Hydropower. Future guides for adult learners and covering marine kinetic energy are in the process. As you can see on this slide, we're probably a year to a year and a half away from pulling those out. Next slide, please. And here's a quick breakdown of those 4 bands that I talked about just in the previous slide. Water and Its Energy is primary K through 2. Wonders of Water is the title of the elementary piece, grades 3 through 5. Energy of Moving Water is our intermediate piece for the middle school, and Exploring Hydroelectricity is our secondary piece. As you can see, when you go through those bullets at each of those levels where we are reinforcing and overlapping, once again, building scaffolding, if you would, the education process and the knowledge base. The science of electricity is a model generator that is assembled from just common opponents, much like the generators that you saw from Andrew's slide. It's where we can really talk about rotating magnetic fields and inducing electric currents through coils of wire. At the secondary level, the hydropower model generator is very similar to that, except we really jump into that relationship of electricity to magnetism. And in the CTE piece, we really dive in just a little deeper to those engineering processes. The next slide, please. When we updated the secondary level curriculum guide, we really wanted to provide a career focus for these young adults. We wanted to give them opportunities to explore fields that are directly related to hydropower generation, but go beyond just producing electrical power. Being a lifelong electrician, I started my electrical career when I was 16, doing residential work. And 41 years later, I'm still doing electrical work in all aspects. And, you know, I get to, as the mentorship director and the apprenticeship director, I get to talk to high school students all the time about learning every aspect of the industry, not just one particular piece. And that's where this upgrade to hydroelectricity went. The text and the activities focused on environmental aspects of hydropower, and it included very, very good discussions of future hydropower technologies and careers that are needed or careers that will be needed in the future as hydropower evolves over time. And the kit that we have for the classroom reflects that change in the curriculum. The next slide, please. The CTE curriculum is one that, again, I was very happy to be able to be a part of that team, working with Emily. She's awesome to work with. She's a blast. We have a lot of fun pulling these teams together. And we started this from scratch, just a group of CTE teachers getting together. We developed a focus, a text, and all those activities. And it truly reflected the need and priorities of a CTE classroom. This curriculum unit goes in depth about electricity and the parameters surrounding its measurements. The hydropower generator is more powerful than the first one that we had, and it provides more opportunities for students to alter the design in an attempt at reducing size or increasing power or any other parameter that a teacher might select to use as a variable. Also in this, we began the introduction of material science and some fluid dynamics. And concrete was our chosen model for some of that material science application. And then it concluded with a discussion of water quality testing and the careers that are available for you to look at on the open portal. Next slide. And the last slide. So if you have any questions about needs materials, please reach out to Emily and myself or Karen Terrell or Mary. If you have her contact information, we'll be glad to work with you and talk with you about all of our curriculum that we have developed. Thanks.
Thank you, Doug. Appreciate it. We're really excited about that. We are going to lead right into our small groups. So you should have received a link to your Jamboard. No worries if you didn't. We will we'll be putting it into the chat. So let me just stop sharing my screen, and then I will be sending you all to your small groups. And why don't we plan on meeting back at, I know on the agenda it says 4:40, so let's do 4:45 since we're just a little bit over on our time to give us enough time to really have a good discussion. So let's meet back in the main room, virtual room at 4:45, okay? 1 second, and I will start your rooms and you'll just go straight there. It's amazing. There we go. Okay. Are we all here?
I think so. We've got a
Okay.
good sized number of people here. Hello.
We do, because I had a couple folks that said they had to jump off around this time, that they couldn't stay the whole time. So
got it.
So some of those folks will trail off here. So Jennifer, do you want to share your screen now? And you can put up the Jamboard. And if the rest of you want to jump into the link, let me grab it.
Can you see my screen there?
Yes.
Thank you. All right.
Do you see the link that I put in the chat? I hope I'm just sharing it with you guys and not like the whole team, but anyway, do you see the link? Yeah?
Yes.
Yes, we do.
Thank you. Okay, so this way you can click into it, and if you have any answers that you want to throw into the Jamboard, you can do that yourself. Otherwise, Jennifer will be here to help kind of organize our thoughts as we go through this.
Is everybody familiar with how this works too, the Jamboard?
No.
Bree, do you want me to talk through it for a second?
Sure, go for it.
So on the left-hand side, there's a variety of different icons, and we have different pages, which maybe in a normal world, we might have you guys put sticky notes up on a board. Instead, this is a platform that allows you to do that virtually. So if you see here, you can click on a sticky note, and I can add something here like, hi, everybody, and then save it. And it shows up on the board. So this is a way that you guys are able to put your thoughts forward in response to these questions. And then I can come in and do some grouping of the inputs so we can kind of categorize them. You can also pick a color if you would like for your sticky note. But yeah, essentially, I think that's the main functionality we'll be using here. Anything else, Bree, on that?
Nope, I think you hit it.
Cool. All right.
Good. Okay,
and
so
then it does kind of plunk it in the upper left, so I'll move things around. Okay.
Oh, that's great. Cool. So this starts the dialogue portion. So like the very first question right off the bat is, what is missing from the portal to ensure it is helpful? This is also making an assumption that everybody's had a chance to peruse the portal a little bit. I know we showed you some of it. We've gone through a few things, but hopefully you've had a chance to kind of look at it on your own as well. But overall, is this a good way for educators to find resources in order to teach on hydropower? Yeah. And if not, what should we have?
Correct. Sorry. Yeah, I was just going to throw that in, that if you haven't had the time to look at it, it would also be valuable for us to know what would be useful to you, what kind of resources would be of benefit to you. And I think in the question here, we mentioned games, videos, hands-on learning, you name it. So you can also throw that out there if you're not as familiar with the portal.
And just because we have the Post-it notes doesn't mean that you can't like talk. So if you have a thought that you want to throw out, just throw it out there and we can talk about it too, if you have any ideas.
So are we referring to the OpenEI portal, which exactly?
We are.
Okay.
Yes, sir. The STEM to Hydro portal that we talked about today.
Okay. Yeah. But again, if that's not something you're familiar with at this time, you could also talk about the type of resources more generally that might be beneficial too. So you could also put that out there.
Ones that showed up from Canyon were great. As far as the links there, as far as the hydropower basics, those I've used those with students already.
Oh, good. That's great.
So it's Paul here. I think my only comment was it would be nice when you get to the landing page that the information was organized based on an audience segmentation. So if you're a student, or if you're an educator, or if you are an industry professional, instead of having to kind of wind your way through what's relevant to you, if it could be organized, I mean, it's great information, but if it could be organized for the audience.
That's great recommendation.
Yeah, thank you. Yep. I think as we continue to build it out, that'll make even more sense too. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I like it. I see mention here of the ethical issues. I guess, could you say more there? What might be useful to have available on ethical issues?
Sorry, that was me. Well, actually, that's what we're delving in right now, into the socio-scientific issues of hydropower. And what we're doing is, I live in Philadelphia, so we have put forward the scenario if we were able to build a hydropower near the Schuylkill River, and then looking at all the ramifications, because nothing is perfect. And there's always, you know what I mean? And I think it's really important to be, informed consumers, that you realize, I love hydropower, but there's always a downside. And I think it's how we have to deal with that as well.
Yeah. And I guess I would be, can I clarify real quick on that? I'm cutting you off. I'm sorry. Would your interest be more on like a methodology that one could use to address these socio-scientific issues? Or would it be like research papers, or just laying out there, here are the issues? What is it around that?
Well, I think everything you said is fabulous, but you really want the kids to engage in conversation, to engage in discourse, that they really, in order to understand an ethical issue, you really have to talk about it, but you have to have the background knowledge in order to engage in a good conversation. And I think that's so. We talk about equity, we talk about health, we talk about environmental, we talk about political, because all these elements come into effect if you're building a hydropower station. And it was really amazing what our young people can come up with. It really opened my eyes.
Thank you.
Terrific. Sharon, did you have a comment?
Yeah, I've been working on looking into that perspective myself while I've been doing some course development. And there's some great resources out there. And I do agree that the dialogue perspective is very important. One thing that I always hesitate with in any engineering field or any kind of discipline is that people kind of come out as like big cheerleaders for their particular technology or whatever. And that means that they're less prepared to know when it's applicable and when it's, another approach is more suitable. I think there's a few just those sorts of nuanced understandings that people need to have going in, and also to understand the other perspective as well is very important as we kind of go towards making it more sustainable. Some stuff that I've come across is like there's work that's being done with the US Army Corps of Engineers, working with the Nature Conservancy, I think, in the US, and they're trying to adapt the way that they manage dams so that they're protecting like the local ecosystems a bit better. So I think there's a lot of really good work out there that we can kind of share a lot more. I'm happy to share that stuff with you, what I've found in my research.
Absolutely.
Absolutely, that'd be amazing.
Please, send it our way, please. We want to make sure that this is really useful information. That sounds great. All right, I see something else here, a contact form, a way for visitors to communicate. Are you thinking communicate with each other or communicate back to the team developing the site? Whomever wrote about that. Okay.
There is a survey, a living survey on the portal where visitors can go in and they can tell us about where they're from, what their background is, what they're looking for, and also what, the resources that are great, resources that aren't great, what should be on there, that kind of thing. If there's any interest in pursuing our project a little bit through like the advisory committee, you can certainly reach out in that way through the living survey as well. So that's already there, but I'm not sure if that's answering the same the question that you're asking.
I have another question.
Sure.
There are two things. I loved the conversation. First of all, I think it was Andrew who was the conversation about what he looks for future employees. I think that was phenomenal. I really do, because the idea of, you know, attitude, you know, asking questions, willingness to learn, all of those come above content. And I think that was so enlightening. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. I like him a lot. He has a really good perspective on all of this and has worked with interns a lot.
But I think that's important for kids, for young people to know. It's not just about your grade that you get in school. It's what comes with the grade, you know, yourself, your attitude, your willingness to learn, to ask questions. And I think that is so important. And that's something I don't think we address enough in school.
Agreed. And then Paul, you had your hand raised.
No, I was just going to make the other point that as important and critical that the engineering profession is to this industry, we can't lose sight of the fact that we need to encourage young biologists. We need to encourage young ecologists. We need to encourage people who have an interest in project management, people in the legal profession, right? I mean, it's a big, wide tent. And not that STEM doesn't kind of incorporate that, but I mean, I'm sure Sharon can talk about it. I mean, what we're working on right now is like a water power 101. And as Michael will tell you, it's 2 inches deep and an ocean wide, right? We want people to understand markets. We want people to understand finance. We want people to understand all of the aspects of this big tent industry. And so I just want to make sure that as we go through this, the idea isn't narrowly focused, but it's broad enough to understand, you know, people like you, Bree, who are in this industry, or others, and why that's important to you. There's a whole bunch of other disciplines that that we need to make sure that we are engaging and giving the opportunity and giving the excitement about this industry.
I think that's a great suggestion. And Bree, we may want to move to the next question in a minute, but I just want to mention, I see simulations noted here, and that is something that is a component of the project where we're developing some visualizations, and I think there may be some games down the road that we're creating as well. You know, I agree. I think that having different platforms that can engage students as well as educators and help them understand how hydro works, especially how does it work within the grid, is really interesting. So yeah, I like that idea on simulations there.
Absolutely. Jonathan has his hand up.
Yeah, thanks. I wanted to kind of build a little off of a lot of the comments that have happened before. I think that kind of speaking both to Paula, and I forget who was the person who just spoke about careers, at least the conversation that I heard before was kind of a strong focus on engineering careers, and we really think of all careers for all students, and we see that as a really key equity issue of, you know, who's been left in the conversation and who hasn't been left in the conversation, and how do we assume that certain students are good for certain jobs and not good for other jobs. And one of the things I want to say I appreciate about the platform is that, as I recall, it's been a couple weeks since I've seen it, but looking at the day in the life careers representation of different genders and different races seemed really strong. So I just want to say thank you for the intention that you put into that. And I think we should put the same intention into the curriculum. So speaking to Paula's point around the historical impacts of water power, most notably, we work with tribal entities, and water power is not a good thing for them in a lot of ways. And so how do we meaningfully allow students to engage in those conversations as it reflects their culture's experience is really, really important, because that's where we see the opportunity for them to feel like they have a part in that conversation, regardless of whatever has happened in the past. If they can look at the past, have an honest examination of what's happened in the past, the benefits and the challenges that it's presented, then that will give them more of a feeling that they can participate in this. in this sector. And so I say that specifically for Indigenous populations, but I also think it very much qualifies for students of color, women in the field, et cetera, et cetera. And so thinking really meaningfully about how we bring in not just kind of a social analysis, but also a social critique into the field, although it might seem scary because we're not just like, yay, hydropower, or yay, any, water power. I think we really feel at CE that it's like actually really essential to the conversation if we really want to diversify, if we really want to get meaningful contribution from students who don't think like, and who can think of new solutions that actually really reflect the needs of their communities. And so that is, that's what I wanted to offer. Thank you.
Thank you for that. I fully agree. And it is a little bit scary, I think, just uncharted territories maybe. But that's a very, very good point.
Well, maybe let me just say, and I'll just name it very quickly. I think it's uncharted territory for white people. I don't think it's uncharted territory for folks of color. And I think that we should just honor that clearly, because a lot of, well, I'll speak for myself. I've been waking up in the past few years, and I think there's a lot more of that can happen, but folks have been talking about this for hundreds of years, really. So
for sure.
Yeah, thank you.
Absolutely, it's not new. Sharon had her hand up, and then I think, let's move to the next question.
Oh, my apologies. My hand's still up.
Oh, that's okay.
But
okay.
I love the conversation.
Let's move along. I think we only have a few minutes left. Whoops, I just skipped a question. How about this one? So how do your students typically learn about new jobs and career opportunities? And so you can answer this from a variety of different perspectives, whether, if you're in the industry, if you're an educator, if you're a student.
Yeah, so just responding to that most recently, it would be students that are incredibly driven, that will go out and look to see what sort of internship opportunities are there, but they're kind of the anomaly. On occasion, I will strong arm them to go to local trade shows or conferences if they're nearby, just to see, going through vendor booths. So Hydrovision was in Charlotte a number of years back, and strong armed, encouraged, what have you, to get some students there. And I think the ones that were there benefited from it. I actually ran into a couple of alums that I didn't realize had ended up in hydropower as well.
And a lot of that was probably your doing, Wes.
Other thoughts on this question?
I think job boards at the local colleges and things like that, that's how they learn about new jobs or career opportunities. Is a lot of the colleges will post, or a company can have those colleges post those jobs on the job boards at the school.
Yep, that's good. And I see guest speakers. I think that's another great connection point too. Sorry, Jonathan.
Yeah, no, just one quick note is one of the things I've really heard is actually most students here learn about careers through their family. And so thinking meaningfully of what their family is doing will actually set up a lot of that. So just something to factor in as we, navigate this.
Yep, I agree with that, especially for hydropower. It does seem to be a family business in many ways. So that's interesting. Networking. Family members. And they don't have enough opportunities. Okay, great. Any other thoughts on this?
Okay, why don't we go to the next question, which is, what do educators want or need but don't have resources to do themselves?
To advance the page, sorry.
I would say funding, but that's just the first thing that comes to my mind.
Just let that cat out of the bag. Yeah,
I'll just go ahead and throw that out there.
Yeah, I'll put the, oh, there we go. Okay. We got funding.
Yeah.
I mean, do you feel like you have enough connection with industry to identify guest speakers, for example? That's like a maybe I'm seeing. Okay.
I don't know if this is like a kind of not part of this topic, but I think like mentorship in general would be a really important part of getting people into the industry and being able to kind of explore what they are most interested in themselves. So guest speakers and stuff is a good part of getting those connections. But I think the longer those connections can hold for is probably more beneficial to people staying in a field.
Are you thinking mentorship of students by industry members or like educators? Do you feel like you need more mentoring and guidance from industry?
Me personally, no, but I'm thinking of like the students who are going to be coming through my program, like how do I get them as exposed to real world problems as possible? One thing that we are looking at is like projects that are with industry, like real projects that are to get them exposed to this sort of work. And even if it's even if it's not like directly working with a client, it could be working with a project that has already been done. But even if they can work with clients, that might just give people like a way to make those connections. I think a lot of career fairs can often be overwhelming. There's a lot of people, not a lot of time. You're one in like a million people who are trying to get the same amount of time. So I think it really just comes down to like people's time commitment in handing off these careers to the next generation.
Mm-hmm. Great.
So one that's a little bit maybe odd or out there specific to what I'm doing, but might be useful is there are a lot of awesome software tools out there. So Wexam, Jedi, SAM from NREL, those kind of things. If there were existing educational examples of those, I think that would lead to students that are more proficient with those tools. As I've used them in my class, I'm like, hey, taxpayer funded, so you've already paid for it. You might as well, get some use from it. And they can see there that some of the concepts that we're using in class are relevant, and they're cooking examples. So you can pull, real data at that point. So I know that a lot of the documentation on those software is very specific. Make sure that the user's up and running, but they support towards education or pedagogy.
Make sure that everybody's on mute. Hearing a lot of background noise. Thanks.
Yeah, I think that's a great idea. Yeah, I like the idea of bringing those tools into the classroom more. Applying software.
I hate to end it because I love this discussion, but we are out of time. It just went by really fast. Does anybody have any final comments though? Like just overall? Somebody was saying something.
I think that was Paul started to say something and then muted himself.
And then he
sorry. So one of the things that we've done at our event, Power of Water Canada, and I would encourage all hydro events to do, is that we set aside what we call Leaders of Tomorrow. And so what we do is we offer free admission to any of our events to students, but we give them a task. And their task is to go to the event and be prepared as a group or teams of people to present at the end of the conference what they think. And it's been phenomenally successful and insightful. And so anything like that, always reflects back to the industry and gives the up and coming professionals an opportunity to learn and to experience. So I would, any organization, whether it's the NHA or us or anybody else, just an opportunity for youth to participate and for youth to actually contribute in addition to participating. I think it's been very successful for us.
That's amazing, Paul. Thank you. Love
That's a
that.
great idea. Yep.
Okay, I'm sending us back into the main room so that we can share some of these thoughts with everybody else. I hope everybody was done because I just brought you all back in. Did I catch anybody mid-sentence? Sorry, there was no way to send a chat to all of you to let you know I was about to switch back to our main group here. So what I want to do in just the little bit of time that we have left, I hope you all had some good discussions. I know it was quick, but I know in our group we already had some really good ideas thrown at us. So I want to kind of do a virtual around the room with all the leaders of the groups. And if you'll just throw one high level idea that came out or topic that stuck out to you and send that out to the group. I appreciate that. We'll start with Ariel. Sorry, putting you on the spot, Ariel.
So sorry, I missed like the first 20 seconds of what you were saying there. So, which is I think the whole spiel, maybe.
Just the whole thing that I was saying. That's okay. No, if you'll just kind of give us an idea of what you guys came out with in your conversations. Was there something that stuck out to you, or just some topics that you guys talked about?
Yeah, definitely. A few, it was a great conversation. There was definitely a few things that came up. Some of the ones that really stuck with me. We talked about kind of the current way of going about teaching renewable energy, essentially getting it into the science class. And we talked about the need to develop curriculum that could be about hydropower, about renewable energy, that could be inserted into social studies classes, that could be into the math curriculum, English, and so not just focusing on science and for the kids who end up taking science, but trying to get the word out through many different classes. That was something that was interesting to me. And then, another main concept that came up on a few different questions was focusing on the human aspect of energy education and not just on the science and the engineering part that, has to come together at the end, but, all the different skills that will be needed, how it affects humanity, and just making sure that that message is really clear. Yes. Those are the two main things that I took away.
Awesome. I love that. Jennifer, you want to talk about what we talked about?
Yes, I will. We had also a great conversation. I'm sorry I hear an echo. I'll just power through. Hopefully you can hear me. One takeaway I had was talking about what we were calling the socio-scientific issues associated with hydro, which hasn't been a huge emphasis on our portal yet. But the concepts of equity are something that we have been looking to weave throughout this project. And so I appreciate that discussion because it gave me some more ideas on what we might be able to bring to the table around diversity, equity, and inclusion, whether that might be specific methodologies that could help you address these various factors, maybe some critical questions or helping to understand diverse perspectives around hydropower and why various groups may have certain thoughts or feelings about hydropower or the various impacts associated with that as well. So I think that was one area that definitely struck us, and not just telling the positive story, but also the social critique. And from an education standpoint, it sounded like that's a really great foundation for students to engage and for them to have kind of educated debate around hydropower. But also I would suggest knowing the latest technologies and all the efforts that have put into play to address some of these environmental concerns, so that it's an educated debate on what's going on and how to resolve these various challenges. So that was one of the big ones that struck me. And the other component of that would be also helping students see that there's kind of a place for everyone in hydro. You know, to me, regardless of, you know, gender or ethnicity, as well as regardless of are you an engineer or not. I think that that came out in some of our discussion, that there is a need to help make that more clear and define that better for students, and look for ways that we can engage students perhaps in some of our professional events, and find other ways to kind of bring hydropower into the classroom, as well as link industry with students, either through mentoring or, you know, other types of hands-on learning opportunities, so that they can become more acquainted with the industry. Anything else, Bree, you want to add there?
That's it. That's good. You did a great job.
Cool.
Emily, your turn.
Sure. So one of the interesting things in my group, I think, was sort of drawing off of a question that was in the chat. How do we make sure teachers have what they need, and what's one of the ways that they're teaching about careers in hydropower in the classroom? And it was mentioned that it's so much easier now that people are comfortable learning virtually to have industry professionals speak to the kids, and have them do even short video clips or short profiles, or come into the classroom virtually to meet with students. And how do we encourage the industry to get on board with that? And one of the things that was mentioned, like talking about safety, that's one thing that a lot of industries have to constantly do. And so that's one angle that might be appropriate. But then also kind of that thinking about how we encourage industry to be broad in whom they send to a classroom, because kids really like to see a variety. They want to see everything from the dirty job to the desk person. And a lot of times, you know, we send the person who's the most well-spoken, or who can get the company line down, or whatever the case may be. And the kids want to hear from everybody. So kind of making sure that we bring that variety forth to the kids.
That's great, Emily. Thank you. Doug.
Hey, thanks again. Yeah, we had a great conversation. Got through quite a few of the questions. And, you know, one of the big takeaways was being able to emphasize resiliency to the students. You know, part of our discussion was students are afraid to fail. And in the real world, my world of electricity, it happens, right? You make a mistake and you figure it out. And engineering is about, you know, re-engineering and re-engineering again. And I think that sometimes resiliency is one of those life skills that we miss out on in a curriculum. And so that was a big part of our group's discussion. And to emphasize, you know, just the work ethic that is required to be successful, not just in the hydro industry, but in any industry. And so that was where things were really focused on in our group. Good conversations.
This is so cool. I don't know if anybody else gets like excited about this stuff, but I think it's great that we're having such good conversations all around. Steve is over here in the chats trying to tell everybody how his group was the best. And so, you know, we're not going to get into that whole mix, but because I think our group was the best, but you know, anyhow, last but not least, Mary, can you give us a quick synopsis?
I can, the synopsis from the best group, clearly. So one of the things that was really important to our group, and we were fortunate to actually have a student, thank you, Mamadou, in our group. And we talked a lot about the importance of really understanding hydro in general, and how do you get teachers interested so you can then get students interested, And, we looked at talking about field trips and immersion experiences, which are probably in a hydro world, immersion is a funny word to use, but understanding, what is it about hydro that's cool? It's being able to pull it all together and helping kids get interested in it because of climate science, and get interested in it because of the great engineering that is coming forward, and what hydro has meant in the past and what it means in the future. And also helping kids. We had a good discussion on the issue of the industry being very committed to the entry level and onboarding of new people to the industry, but needing really skilled and experienced people. So how do we get through that gap? And how do we support entry-level positions to become more skilled? And that was mentorships and additional internships and professional development opportunities there. So we had a really beautiful discussion about even what students need, and what are kids lacking as they're coming students, and new employees lacking. And Mamadou said some great things about that in terms of just leadership and time management and maturity and those soft skills that people really need to enter the industry. And how do we get that to them? It's more than just the technical skills aren't enough. You have to have all of the extra that comes with it. But at the end of the day, it's about experience. It's about starting early, getting students and teachers very interested in learning more about hydro and giving them those experiences. We all know that you take a teacher or a student through a hydro facility and you've got them, and they're interested. It's big engineering. It's cool. It's making a difference in many of the ways that Allison mentioned in the beginning. And it's there, and it's for the future. It's for the current. It's a beautiful, elegant technology that works really well and what we need to be tackling in the energy space. So I still think our group was the best, but I think that covers.
I'm not going to answer to that, but that was really good discussion. Thank you, Mary. I appreciate it. I know we're really right at the hour, but I can't go without sharing just a little last tidbit of our day here, which is the next STEM to Hydro Dialogue workshop. That will be on March 9th, and we're going to talk about the Marine Energy Collegiate Competition, or more commonly known as the NEC. So if you would like to join that, I would appreciate it. You can find all of this information and all the dates and information on the Hydropower Foundation website, hydrofoundation.org. So definitely check that out. And I just really appreciate you guys joining us today. We're coming into, let's see, we have the MEC, we have the Marine Energy workshop on educational resources. So we'll get to talk about that from that aspect. That's going to be coming up May 18th. Hopefully alongside HydroVision. We're really optimistic that that's going to work out really well, and we're going to get to be in person for workforce assessment workshop. There will obviously be virtual options as well, but we're really excited to have that thought in mind that we might be able to be together. So, and then lastly, we're going to have a discussion about the Hydropower Collegiate Competition, and that is going to take place on August 12th. So we hope that you guys can be a part of all of these conversations. We've said from the beginning on creating this STEM to Hydro Portal and then the STEM to Marine Energy Portal that we are not trying to create this in a vacuum. We want to make sure that we're getting feedback from industry, we're wanting feedback from academia, and we want to make sure that we're bridging the gap between the two. One of the things that was said in our small group was just, I'm an educator, I don't know what industry needs. And we want to fix that. Like that's the whole point, is that we want to fix that. We want to make sure that you guys know what industry needs so that you can teach your students to be ready and give them the skills that they need in order to join the workforce. And then we want industry to see that, and be able to go, oh my gosh, it's working, So anyhow, thank you so much for being here. I will be sending out the presentation from today so that you have it. We have also recorded this workshop, so that will be accessible as well. So if you want to go back and take a look at any of that, you can. I'd also, I'll be sending out our contact information, because that was also something that I think somebody had asked about earlier. So if anybody has any last minute questions or comments, I've taken you over the hour, but I see them coming in the comments. Well, we look forward to continuing the discussion, and thank you for giving us your time this afternoon, this evening for some of you. And we look forward to seeing you in the next one. Thanks, everybody.
Bye, thank you.